So let's get right into this. Basically, you've got Elon, and through D.O.G.E, which is basically an efficiency department with the government, which is newly created by Trump. He is going through the government and doing efficiency checks. A lot of people are upset because now he has full access to sensitive treasury payment systems. What does that mean? It means, all the payment systems that essentially are used to go ahead and, see what you're getting in Social Security disability benefits, what your retirement benefits are, what the supplemental security income people are getting, what, government employees are getting. He's got access to basically the treasury, what goes out, what comes in, etc. Now, as a bit through this, there was an employee who was unwilling to give him access. That employee, of course, was quasi terminated, stepped down, whatever you want to call it. But the bottom line is they're no longer with what they were doing. So what I think is happening is Trump is running into some walls and he is firing these individuals because he wants to do it his way. Now, with that said, I want to go through basically and read to you a little bit about this and then explain to you some of the things that will be used by the D.O.G.E when it comes to Social Security benefits to explain how they will be using these rules to quote unquote cleanse essentially Social Security benefits or make them more efficient. Here we go. The highest ranking Democrat on the Senate Finance Committee, and this is specifically from an article written by Fatima Hussein from Politics section. Basically, the highest ranking Democrat on the Senate Finance Committee, Ron Wyden of Oregon, on Friday sent a letter to Trump's Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent expressing concern that officials associated with Musk must have intended to access these payment systems to illegally withhold payments to any number of programs. Quote, to put it bluntly, these payment systems simply cannot fail, and any politically motivated meddling in them risks severe damage to our country and the economy, Wyden said. The news also comes after Treasury Acting Deputy Secretary David LaBrick resigned from his position. That was the one that got in the way of Elon that Trump then pushed. Although Trump is saying non-political firings kind of gig, and that he wasn't truly involved. But anyways, he was resigned from his position at the Treasury after more than 30 years of service. The Washington Post on Friday, because if he resigns, he's going to get his pension, all that jazz, and all the extra benefits that come with it, yada yada. The Washington Post on Friday reported that LaBrick resigned his position after Musk and his D.O.G.E organization requested access to the sensitive Treasury data. The Fiscal Service performs, quote, some of the most vital functions in the government, LaBrick said in a letter to the Treasury employees sent out Friday. Quote, our work may be unknown to most of the public, but that doesn't mean it isn't exceptionally important. I'm grateful for having been able to work alongside some of the nation's best and most talented operations staff. The letter did not mention a D.O.G.E request to access Treasury payments, etc. Musk on Saturday responded to a post on a social media platform, X, about the Department of LaBrick. Quote, the D.O.G.E team discovered, among other things, that payment approval officers at the Treasury were instructed always to approve payments, even to known fraudulent or terrorist groups. They literally never denied a payment in their entire career, not even once, which is a very scary thing, which is what you want the Department of Efficiency to do, is to go and figure out where the potential problems are. So if we have people that are just approving payments out from the Treasury, which are paid for by the taxes of the working class, which is basically being destroyed because of student loans and horrible, horrible inflation, then they should know about it. So the whole point of this is that you should really let your ears ring on this one part. I'm going to read to you the section of the sentence that's really important. Even to known fraudulent or terrorist groups. Okay. Which groups and the SSA are potentially facing some trouble? Well, to understand that, we have to look at basically 143.1, which is fraud in connection with benefit claims and earnings records, which will tell you essentially those groups of individuals who are most likely to be part of the cleanse of the Social Security benefits and programs when it comes to payments being received from the U.S. Treasury, which of course is, figured out by the SSA in connection with the IRS. All right, let me read it to you real quick. What is Social Security fraud? Fraud involves obtaining something of value through willful misrepresentation. In the context of our programs, fraud exists when a person fails to disclose a material fact for use in getting benefits and payments. Information is material when it could influence our determination on entitlement or eligibility of benefits under the Social Security Act. Examples of fraud include the following. So these are the groups that are most likely to be cleansed of receiving some form of benefits or payments. Making false statements on claims. And now that's a tricky part because anybody making a statement about their limitations, their impairments, where when they're having a good day and that statement doesn't seem on its face accurate on a good day, could potentially be in trouble. I mean, it could be pushed to that point. Concealing facts or events that affect eligibility for benefits. So basically, if you were to go ahead and say, well, I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't do this, I can't do that. And then all of a sudden, you're having a really good week and you're going on a fishing trip, right? Or you're on a fish boat or you're on a dining cruise boat, right? That just drives up and down the river and you eat some food. Then potentially you could get in trouble. Misusing benefits by a representative payee. Okay. Failing to notify the agency of the death of a beneficiary and continuing to receive the deceased person's benefits. That's a classic one. That happens all the time. You get kids that are still collecting the check from the federal government for the parents' retirement benefits, and the parent passes away and they don't tell anybody. That happens all the time. Buying or selling Social Security cards. Okay. That's part of the market, especially during the Biden era. That was becoming a big, big ticket item where basically people were buying and selling Social Security cards to individuals that had money that were coming into this country. Filing claims under another person's Social Security number. Another massive thing of fraud, which was happening during the Biden era when it comes to individuals that were pretending to be somebody else and then file a claim as that other person. Scamming people by impersonating our employees, right? So you get those fraud calls where basically somebody will call you and they'll say, "Oh, I'm from the SSA, and we need this, and we need this, and we need this, and we need this." The bottom line is, to be very fair, that is rampant at this point. Bribing our employees. Now, the SSA employees, as people now know, are not perfect. They're having a very difficult time with the amount of employees they have. They can't get enough. And what's not helping that is that other departments, other agencies are pulling employees from the SSA because people would rather work, even with a lower number, as to their actual designation, at a different agency for less money for a short period until they get promoted back up to that same level. So the bottom line is, just to be fair, like it's a quasi version of other agencies taking employees from the SSA too. That's a problem. Misusing grant or contract funds, right? So, the SSA does have grants. They do grants for, different groups and individuals. So misusing those funds, redirecting them for some purpose. And then basically another one that I'm adding to this list, which isn't part of it, which is threatening SSA personnel. I think a lot of people are really angry right now with how their benefits are, they can't get a hold of people at the SSA easily or moderately. It's more like a severe difficulty. And as a result, they get angry very easily. And then there's a lot of mentally impaired people who get angry no matter what. So the bottom line is, not that all of them do, but the bottom line is that threatening SSA personnel is something that, it's not going to rise to the level of fraud, but it is going to rise to the level of something where you might go on a list for something, or you might be banned from going to local field offices and then your only option is to call them, which, is a problem in itself. So the point that I'm getting at with this whole situation, just so you understand it, is that these items, right, basically fraud and the lesser version of fraud are going to be used in the future by the D.O.G.E to review people who should not be receiving benefits. When you sit back and think about what the D.O.G.E's job really is, it is going to first start off with big ticket items. It will be closing agencies that are the smaller ones that basically don't have a place in a company that is dying, in a company that is bankrupt, in a company that is failing. And that's what they do. The first thing is they're going to hit the big ticket, easy items by closing down agencies that are not relevant. Okay. Then they're going to start going internal to the agencies that do exist. That means internal to the people that are working in them to go ahead and do things. Then it's going to transition to those who are receiving benefits from basically those companies that are not government employees. And when we get to that point, they're probably going to start with the easy categories, which are those potentially committing fraud. And just to give you a heads up, I didn't read you the specific statute language because it's always a tougher read, but I'll give you an example. Like the specific statute language from 143.1 would be, let's say Part C, make or cause to be made a false statement or misrepresentation of a material fact for use in determining your rights to Social Security or SSI benefits. Make or cause to be made any false statement or representation as to whether wages were paid to you, the period during which wages were paid, or the amount of your wages, or whether you have net earnings from self-employment, the amount of your earnings, or the period during which you earn the money. The point is making statements to the SSA which didn't turn out to be true, which didn't turn out to be correct, etc. There's a lot of things here: concealing things, concealing statements, not furnishing information, furnishing false information as to your identity in connection with the establishment and maintenance of Social Security records. Another one is for the purpose of increasing your payment under Social Security or any other federally funded program, or for the purpose of obtaining such payment using a Social Security number obtained on the basis of false information, or falsely representing a number to be your Social Security number. There's all these things. And then just so that everybody's on the same page, when this D.O.G.E gets rolling and they really get into things, okay? And I'm not saying we need some of this too. Like, it's not a clear point. We don't want to. There's fraud that's rampant throughout the Social Security benefit system, just like this fraud that's rampant throughout the U.S. Treasury. We need some of this. We do. We absolutely do. It's not like, oh, this is how good. No. I don't fall into that line. I'm in the middle. I look at both sides and I realize there is a need for this too. What is the penalty? Section 143.2. The penalty upon conviction for violation of the penal provisions of the Social Security Act or one of the related provisions of the Federal Criminal Code may be a fine, imprisonment, or both. The penalty ranges from a fine of not more than $500, imprisonment of 1 year, or both, to a fine of not more than $10,000, and imprisonment of not more than 15 years, or both. The penalty depends upon the specific law violated. So now you kind of understand where this has its place and how the D.O.G.E, via Elon, will first go after the big or the small agencies that they're going to pull from the government, like the whole checking of clothing of government officials. That whole thing's gone, right? That's goner. But now that Elon has access to the U.S. Treasury information, he's going to go after the employees receiving, their payments to see who's doing their job, who's not. Then he's going to go after basically those who are receiving benefits potentially fraudulently, or there's a similar fault situation. And that will start with the real big fraudsters. That'll go after the real big fraudsters, and then it will start to trickle and trickle and trickle and trickle down to those individuals who claim that they're disabled but are no longer truly disabled, or those people who were never really disabled but claim that they were. And the way this works, just so you guys understand, is that he will be bound to the Social Security rule that the rules you were found disabled under still apply to the current rulings and, 8-step sequential process reviews that they do with you in the future for CDRs. However, fraud is something that they can use to step kind of over or around the 8-step sequential process, because that shows that you potentially were not the thing that you claim by making a false statement, omission, etc. So I foresee this as being something into the future that will be, an interesting thing. And I think that I think it's going to be he's going to run into a lot of problems with it. He's going to see a lot of backlash from it. And I do believe Trump will step in with this and basically say, hey, in this situation, I want you to go ahead and leave the Social Security people alone, because if he goes too aggressively after the Social Security recipients, which will be mostly the disabled and the SSI recipients, then it makes him look bad in a political sense. Now, Trump does not have a third term option. You have to remember, because he doesn't have a third term option, he's not sitting back going like, oh, I maybe want another term. Maybe I should, cool things down a little bit. Maybe. No. He's coming at this thing full bore. This amp is cranked. Okay. He is full tilt. I almost think it would not be a terrible idea to give him a little religion, right? And basically say, okay, we might give you an extra third term as an option for potential vote-in, which to me would slow down the hyper-aggressiveness, right, that potentially could come, because he would be more fragile when trying to say what we're going to change and how we're going to change it. We're not going to be this aggressive by squeezing and ripping and tearing. Instead, we're going to do a slow roll into something else. So, that's kind of the Tara Denise. Thank you for the $4.99 donation. Just saying howdy, madame. Very good to see you. Howdy. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and catch you guys a little bit later. I have to go ahead and get to work outside with some things. You have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful night. But a final thought, think about this. Remember, Elon is not a super AI person. He doesn't love it like a lot of people do. But when AI starts to review medical records, and okay, so just side note, the SSA has now set up a specialty system which has automatic quick access to the internals of most medical facilities, where they're sharing in a hub your medical documentation. If that expands to the point where it kind of becomes like prison records, where it's all like in a spot and they can get instant access to it, what happens is the following. What happens is they can have an AI program, artificial intelligence, constantly review your medical records. And the moment a therapist, a doctor, a specialist says, "Hey, we see improvement here," or "Hey, they've done better with this," or "Hey, they're going in this direction," CDR, CDR, and the CDRs, if automated by essentially AI, that could be very, very bad for the amount of disabled people that are out there. So just be aware this is something to think about. Okay. So, anyways, because remember, the technologies he would need to be able to do this, because this is what this comes down to. When you have change, you have to have technologies to support the change as to where you want to end up. Number one, he'd have to know who's receiving the benefits. He just got access to that. Number two, you'd have to have artificial intelligence that's built to review records. They've already have that going. They started in 2023. They're getting better at it. Number three, they'd have to have statutes that basically review people more often and have the categories split up into more categories, that they could potentially put people down in categories to how often they review them, which is what Trump was doing in his last cycle. They're headed in that direction. That's the direction they're going. And so, if you're an individual who's disabled and you're receiving benefits and you're showing improvement in some areas, then, just realize, dot, dot, dot. And I think this is going to affect veterans the most, but just realize that this is something, this D.O.G.E, which may not be so helpful to you as an individual. It may be something that actually causes you more problems than not. So, anyways, but again, there's another side to it where there's rampant fraud at the SSA. So it is a problem as well. It's that's why on their letters, when they send out letters, like they literally say on the back, watch out for this scam, watch out for this thinking. The envelope literally has it on there because it is that rampant of an issue. All right, my name is Attorney Walter Hnot. I'm the most viewed and subscribed to disability attorney in America. With that said, please remember to like, please remember to subscribe, and please head over to Google and type in Disability Resolution Law Firm. Again, Disability Resolution Florida. Type that in and throw up some stars. I love seeing those in the morning. They help me also create more content to kind of keep you up to date. I usually produce items that are before the problem occurs, which means I get people hating on me ahead of time, but then they ultimately come back around and realize, oh shit, this is the reality. This is what's actually happening. But what's good is that even though I get hate, it gets their brain going in the right direction. And then they start to realize maybe they should start to prepare. Maybe they should start to get things set aside. And that's good. Everybody wants to shoot the messenger kind of gig, and I get that, but it gets them going in the right direction. So, anyways, if you want to catch me live where I answer questions for free about disability law, it's usually Monday and Thursday, although we're playing with those days right now. And then also, if you want a private hour for me to go through a particularly difficult thing, that's fine. There is a bio link below in the bio or on the TV. You got to click around a little bit to get to the bio, but you click on that and you can basically get the little mini contract for a private hour. I will catch you all a little bit later. You have a wonderful day. Christy Hughes, I just saw you. Howdy, howdy. I will catch you all a little bit later. You have a wonderful day. And bottom line is this. Thank you so much for being a part of this channel, and I will catch you a little bit later. Thank you so much. All right. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.